Hey, hey. This is the Quantum Sheriff right here. Hopefully the angle's pretty good and the lighting's good. Playing around with it a bit. It's dark outside right now, so I couldn't film outside. And I was playing around with inside lights, but I had to do something, kind of make my own studio, if you will, so I can actually get some good lighting on my face and you can see what I'm doing. See my facial expressions. Anyway, hello everyone. Here I am, doing my thing out here on the YouTube universe now. I uploaded my first video. You can check it out if you want to. But, honestly, I'm not going to monetize, if I get a choice. I'm not going to monetize any of my ads because that kind of defeats the purpose. And I know that people are going to maybe argue with me on that front. I'm not against wealth. I really want to put that out there, that wealth is not a bad thing, but it can be a distracting thing. And we can end up doing things for the right reason, but eventually get caught up, I think, in the glamour of it, and that's not my intention. My intention is to be of service to the one absolute, I guess you could say. And we're all part of that. We're all involved in it, I guess you could say, or at least based upon my understanding. And if you don't agree with it, cool. If you want to use different terminology, cool. Whatever, you know. For the most part, I think people who are going to view my channel are people who are like me. And hopefully, if I want to do anything, I want to kind of bridge the gap between what I would consider religious background people and more scientific background people, and kind of bring them together in this wonderful, awesome unity of greatness. And I don't know what that looked like. Hopefully, good hand signals. Yeah. I don't see them as necessarily separate. They're just different. They're coming from different points of reference. One of the things that I've seen about people who are like us is we seem to be pretty dedicated to the truth. We really value truth, genuineness, and honesty. And so that's I think, if anything, the people who are interested in the Mandela effect and flat Earth research are what I would call truthseers. They are interested in and value and partake in the truth because that's what's important to them. And while most people are, I think, more or less content with a version of the truth, truthseers usually are more dedicated to seeing the whole truth, or a greater portion of it. And that's what makes us, you know, in air quotes, special. Which is why we're immune to some of the environmental effects. And I think I touched upon this in my introduction. And this is really just speculation. All I can really see is look at myself, then other people who are experiencing the same thing, and try to draw correlations. So, you know, who knows? Who the fuck knows, man? But based upon my intuition, based upon my observation, I think the one thing that we all have in common is that we have a dedication to the actual truth, and you know, and we're willing to amend our view of it, you know, our subjective view of that truth, as more information and things come to light. And yeah, I guess that's that. And so I just wanted to touch upon that, I guess. And so bringing these two different ideas, these two hemispheres, these two different subjective points of view together, because part of me, I really identify with the science aspect. We need to do this through experimentation, through first-hand experience, and conversation with each other. And that's done on a scientific basis. We are discovering and uncovering all of this together. So every single person who is listening to this is important is an important part of what's unfolding because you're hearing this, because you're listening to this. So the very fact that you're hearing and listening to this is important. And I know it kind of seems like repetitious there, but I want to press that there are, from my perspective, there's no bystanders. Nobody is sitting on the sidelines in this kind of in this circumstance. And that if you are on the sidelines, you're probably not viewing this video. The truth is that people who are genuinely sitting on the sidelines and choosing to do that aren't viewing this video. They are doing other stuff. They're distracted. You know, my opinion, right? They're pursuing other pursuits which are important to them. And no judgment. No judgment. I want more for me and mine. And ultimately, I think everybody does, but that's not up to me. I think the best thing that I can do as an individual is to talk about this, to share my point of view, my frame of reference, and to, ultimately, my goal is kind of widespread, and it's going to happen through a lot of other people too, but what I essentially want to do is create a culture that is reflective and honoring of the truth. And rather than piece it in a subjective frame of reference that is a control system, I want to create a culture which is more open and more allowing and encompassing in its just period. Right now, most cultures are somewhat antagonistic toward any other culture, where you don't have a culture which is honoring other cultures. And I know I'm speaking generally. What I see more than anything else is everything on an individual basis. And there's individuals who are part of any culture who are very understanding of other cultures. And that's all. So I guess to connect those, what I'm trying to create is a culture of individuals. And I am not trying to create it, I guess. Technically, we're all a bunch of individuals. And I think we're all in this conversation together because this is what's important to us. And we are looking for lack of a better word, our tribe, our community, because we see things in a certain manner. And, or we see things that other people just don't see at all, right? And, you know, that's that. So to come back to what I was really talking about originally, which is to come together, right? So the scientific aspect, I think I touched upon that. Rather than trust what we've been given, I think it's important that we experiment and try things firsthand. And I think that is more of a scientific basis. The other basis, the religious basis, is a very interesting one. I have spent time with people who are very religious, and I believe, and through my definitions too, there's a difference between being religious and being spiritual, but they're not exclusive of each other. You can be very religious and very spiritual. You can be completely non-religious, but extremely spiritual. And vice versa is true. You can be very religious and not spiritual at all, and you can be not spiritual and not religious. You know, it's you know, they're not exclusive of each other. So, thinking. On a deeper level, on a heart level, oh God, I agree with the religious people. They tend to have a faith and a belief in the unseen, which the science-minded people are a little bit afraid of. The religious people don't try to explain everything in the most case, and that's actually an asset, in my opinion. But at the same time, in that same breath, because there's positives and negatives, I would say, to both sides, the religious aspect is that while people have that faith in that invisibleness, they tend to be more prone to indoctrination through doctrines. So people who are religious tout the Bible with such ferocity that I believe that they're missing the greater gift that's being offered here to all of us. And I'll use different words depending on which audience that I'm referring to, and I'm trying to create also a bridge between those two. So sometimes I might use more scientific language. Other times I might use more religious terminology. And hopefully we're coming together so everyone can understand everybody, and we can all have a party and say, yeah, woo, oh, sorry, I was dancing. But yeah, that's what I'm about. That's what's going on with me. And so on the related notes, that's important too. They're trying to split us, and I think 99% of people who are involved in this conversation agree with that. Obviously, they're trying to create disinformation, and obviously they're trying to split us apart. That's what they do. Everybody, if you're watching these videos, chances are you know about controlled opposition and all of those other things. You're not a newbie in any of this if you're watching my videos. If you are a newbie in these things, I'm sorry. You know, I'm probably exposing you to a lot of stuff that you've never even heard about before. You know, to quote the Die Hard movie, welcome to the party, pal. And I wish you luck, and Godspeed. Anyway. So, right. Since we're all in this kind of happening simultaneously, what was it? Forgive me, I'm a human being. A little bit absent-minded sometimes. Not absent-minded per se, but more like lots of thoughts going on at once. So I tend to get distracted with certain thoughts sometimes. And, you know, everybody's like that. Everybody's like that. Hopefully it's more entertaining than anything else. Identifiable. I think we should be careful, both sides, and that the scientific side should not dismiss the religious side, nor should the religious side dismiss the scientific side. Because ultimately, science is turned into a religion, but I think the religious side needs to acknowledge that, oh, maybe we've been deceived after all. That's the big thing that I think would be the biggest detriment to our cohesiveness, is either what I would consider a fanatical loyalty to a particular story, and that if we're so attached to that story, then our own minds are going to reframe the information that we're receiving in order to validate that story, if that's the story that we're attached to. That's why I think people like us, we're less attached to the story and we're more attached to the truth. And there's varying aspects of that. You know, some of us are so dedicated to the truth that we've become disenfranchised with just about all systems, with just about all religions, and we piece together our own. Some have found their calling and their awakening through a particular religion or doctrine, and that's okay too. There's like because I want to say that very, very quickly too, that I have received a lot of wonderful things from very religious people, and it was through their religion that they were able to find that peace and that awareness. And I think in many cases, whether or not this is true or not, I think a lot of the founding elements of just about every religion were based upon what I'm talking about, what we're all going through. However, just over time, eventually those control aspects came into play, and the truthiness, if you will, of all of the religions was diluted into becoming systems of control. Because, you know, as fucked up as it is, I think most people are sleeping. They're not conscious of who they really are and what's going on and what this is all about. And it might seem arrogant of me to claim or come from a stance that I know more than anybody else, but it's almost the opposite. The truth about this whole situation is the less you know, the better off you are. Because what you know isn't really what you know, it's what you think you know. And not just you as the viewer, but I mean what we're all somewhat indoctrinated into. You wouldn't believe the things that I thought that I knew that I don't know now. You know, if you're a flat earth researcher like myself, then you would probably fall into that group. Most people I found who are involved in the flat earth research are wanted to disprove it. We're like, oh my god, this is fucked up shit. You know, let's try to disprove it. And as they looked deeper into it, they weren't able to. And at the very least, saw that so much of what we were told is such a blatant lie that it puts into question what we're viewing and what's going on. And really points to not only the likelihood, but the probability that we've been deceived on such a massive scale. And it's hard to swallow. It's not easy to swallow. Anyway, excuse me, getting a little indigestion there, I guess. So, hopefully this looks okay with the lighting and everything. I might use this spot and the lighting for another video. Yeah. So I want us to get along, alright? Let's stop bashing each other. Essentially, if you are bashing on my channel, I might delete your comment. You know, if you're providing valid conversation material, cool. But if you're just bashing on one side, either one, I don't care. If you're like, oh, you need to be more open-minded, you know, well, that goes both ways, right? You're like, it's only God, and then you start quoting the Bible in all these different places. Okay. That drives people away. In the most case, unless they're already on the religious boat with you, you got to understand that that drives people away. And that if you are truly of Christ, right, and you are carrying the message of Christ with you, and you are spreading the gospel, you got to realize that you got to come in a manner which is receivable. And you know, to quote a song, you know, all my friends are heathens, take it slow. You know, don't go thumping the Bible, all right? Because that shouldn't be the message of Christ. Seriously, if everything that hinges upon Christ's teachings are the Bible, you're up shit creek, motherfucker. His teachings should speak for themselves, and the messages of the Bible and the metaphor and the examples that Christ provides should be an example of how to live by, not the Bible and as a historical account or even as a future prediction, but more as a metaphorical story of what man has overcome in order to get to the place. Like, and so just be careful. Just be careful, you guys, okay? I hope you can understand by the way that I'm talking that I give a fuck. You know, on both sides. I give a fuck on both sides. That even if you think that it is the Bible to the nth degree, you know, I honor your perspective, but you're not going to convince me and many other people that the Bible is anything more than a book. Now, Jesus may or may not exist, but the example is real, and the example is much more powerful, I feel like, than any historical figure. And if it is an actual historical figure, awesome. That makes the metaphor and the example even more powerful. But I don't necessarily believe that that metaphor and that example is exclusive to just Christianity. Anyway, I've kind of gone off the deep end about the religious aspect of that. I only mention that because a lot of flat earthers are religious in background. And my detection is that these people are genuine. They're not, bad people by anyone's stretch of the imagination, hopefully. And likewise, on the other side of the fence, these people who do not subscribe to the religious aspects of the flat Earth awareness, yet are helping the flat Earth subject gain more awareness. Sweet, right? This is going to come in many different forms and many different layers. And I feel like the best thing we can do is be supportive of each other. And I feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. This is mostly for the genuine people out there. The truth is that there is going to be, as there already is, movement to segregate and separate the movement from within. And this is not new. Like I said in the beginning, controlled opposition, people, you probably already are aware of it, to be 100% honest. So I don't want to just spend a whole bunch of time on that level. What I do want to say is to use your fucking intuition. We all need to use our intuition. And that if we feel weird about a particular source, honor it. Honor it. You don't have to listen to that source anymore. Or take everything with a grain of salt. Or just, try not to think about it. And think about other things instead. Because our focus and what we're drawing to us and what we're creating is based upon our focus. So, don't focus on the shills. Don't focus on the trolls. They're going to be there. I mean, that's one of those things which you just have to accept. If you're on this path with me, you have to accept that there's going to be trolls, there's going to be shills, and it's not always going to be a bed of roses. Or if it is, that bed of roses is sometimes going to be thorny. So, be prepared. And truthfully, hopefully if you get this far, like what I'm doing, just starting to post videos, talk to people online, get together, hopefully you're prepared to deal with it. Like, in many ways, I feel like our type, wouldn't even begin to do this unless they were somewhat prepared. And that if they weren't prepared, they just wouldn't even make a video. And I know, because I've been there. So, when I wasn't ready to deal with all those other factors. And we'll see how ready I am. Like, anyway. This has probably gone on for like 20 minutes. I'm good at making like 20-minute conversations, huh? That was the theme of this. We should get together, maybe not physically, but just like we should talk, right? Let's converse. Let's work this out and unlearn what we've been indoctrinated from. And rather than focus on determining what is, we should agree upon what isn't. And I think that is where we can find our common ground. So, if you don't take anything away from this video other than that, I would take away that. Because we will not be able to agree upon what is. That's going to be one of the hardest factors because we don't know. There's lots of possibilities out there. But one thing I think we can all agree upon is what isn't. And so, obviously, right, I don't want to list through all those things. Those would be my perceptions of things. But yes, right. Let's try to focus on what isn't. And as strange as that might sound, as backward as that might sound, all of my intuitive guidance is basically shouting at me at the top of its lungs, just like, we can all get together and we can all agree upon this as long as we're not so concerned with being right. Because the truth is that if we're more concerned with uncovering the truth, then we get to be okay with the unknown. And that's a large factor of this too, is not being afraid of the unknown. And that I think a lot of people use religion and science as a means of putting themselves in a box so they don't have to be afraid. And that unknown can be very scary for most people. Truth is, if you're watching this video, you're either coming out of your box or you're already out of it in some way, shape, or form. And Yeah. Congrats. Congrats, right? High five. Yeah. Woo! Anyway, that's probably, I should probably cut it short there. Maybe not so short. We'll see if I end up posting this at all. You know, stay true to yourselves, stay true to each other. Peace.